But I think more importantly, there's a recognition within the federal government and this administration that the infrastructure challenge of the 21st century is broadband. So we're anticipating seeing a lot of focus on broadband infrastructure deployment over the coming years and months and years. And then finally, we saw in-building really emerge as sort of the hot topic item. Indoor communications with data transfer will account for about 80% of the traffic on the network. And so we're seeing even Congress has captured Congress's attention. Last session, Senators Snowe and Warner introduced the YNET Act, which would have all federally owned and controlled buildings require that they have some sort of Wi-Fi and, quote, cellular, we'll change that language, but commercial wireless services and public safety services in those buildings.
Now as we move into the new era of wireless, which is really data-centric, it's not just about coverage any longer, but really about capacity. With data, one can say that it's not really a single application, but a family of applications. And each application uses a certain amount of bandwidth. And the fact is, unlike with voice, where you can only have one voice call, one person can talk on one conversation at a time, or two people can have a conversation at a time. With data applications and processor speeds, and hence it's becoming more and more complex, we just have the new dual-mode processors coming out now. What we're looking at is the ability for a single individual to run multiple applications at the same time. So what does that mean? They can have processing power going on, they can have background communications, they can do video conferencing from one mobile device to another at the same time. This added effect of multiple applications, all running at various levels of bandwidth, really push for the need for additional data capacity. Certainly, we've all read in the news about the challenges AT&T's had with its network and keeping up, not with the coverage map, but again, keeping up with just a mind-blowing amount of data capacity being used by iPhone users on a casual basis. So I think for us, in the DAS world, when we think about in-building solutions, we need to start thinking not only about providing coverage for voice users within buildings, but really providing data capacity for data users.
And as we go from 3G to 4G, we all know that coverage and capacity are interrelated, right? So a user on the cell edge with bad capacity can pretty much bring the overall capacity of the entire cell down, and vice versa. So that's one aspect, and then of course we also talk, Kamal also mentioned mission critical application. It's not about providing coverage anymore, it's about providing a level of service for your users, whether they're indoors or outdoors, for these applications. And the way DAS comes into play here is that when we start thinking about DAS, what we're really saying is we now are able to actually improve the coverage using these DAS systems so that they're fiber fed or off the air in the venues drastically, right? And that increase in coverage literally transforms into better capacity for all the users and also a better offload for that macro network, which means better capacity of the macro network as well.
One of the major efforts is from a mandates and ordinance standpoint. The liability is going to fall on the building owner. I mean, if you look back to 9/11, everybody that unfortunately lost a loved one, many of them decided to sue the city. There's been ordinances and mandates since then that actually, if that were, God forbid, to happen again, or any type of incident happens, the building owner is the one that's responsible for making sure there's minimum threshold of signal in a building. So, you've got public safety authorities all coming into play. I'll call your attention to the National Holocaust Museum, which had a shooting about a little over a year ago. There was a DAS system put in that particular facility a few weeks prior to that incident. And although, unfortunately, the guard was killed, I think 5 or 6 different agencies that arrived on scene under 7 minutes had great interoperability of their public safety phones, and there was no additional lives lost. So I think we're going to see more and more of that with the incidents, unfortunately, with the environment that we live in.